Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, we're gonna have a video today that everyone has been asking me to do, because if you pay attention to the channel, in like the last 3 or 4 months, you know my wife and I were house hunting in Chicago, and we've gone through an entire odyssey of trying to find a place. Well, we have moved in. We've been here about 3 weeks as of the recording of this video, so it's time for the ultimate retro gaming room and ultimate modern gaming room, at least the way I like to set things up. Just be aware that this is basically a part 1. It is still in progress. There's a couple things to change, but for the most part, I've kind of got everything dialed in the way I want to. And in this room, I have my LG C4 65-inch OLED television, as well as CRT, so I can play the best way, however I want to. And I really wanted to have a room that had everything in it, because in my previous house, I had the OLED in the living room with a lot of retro stuff, but I just found that I didn't actually play that many games in there. I'm kind of the type of person that likes a dedicated room to be able to make my videos, do my regular work, as well as do all my gaming. So I have put everything into one room in our house, so when you close the door, you never even know there was games here. So behind door number 1 on the OLED setup, I have a PlayStation 3, a Wii U, and of course a MiSTer FPGA. So I can play any single system here that would be quote-unquote modern. Behind the TV is a PlayStation 5, an Xbox Series X, a Switch 2, and then every other quote-unquote modern system, plus some retro in there as well. And you know full well I want to have a MiSTer FPGA on my OLED, so I have the MiSTer Add-ons dual RAM version, because that doesn't have an analog out, but it does have that extra RAM in there. And this is the MiSTer I like to feature on something like a television, just because it's never actually going to be going into any sort of CRT source. So I can jump back and forth between MiSTer FPGA and any modern console I want to. Now behind door number 2, let's take a look what we have here. I have a PlayStation 4 as well as an Xbox One X, just because I really couldn't find anywhere else to put them. And honestly, every once in a while, I do like playing them just for the fun factor. Now behind door number 3, because I like to put these things via that RetroTink 4K scaler, I have my FM Towns Marty as well as a PSX. That is a PlayStation 2 DVR that'll play PlayStation 1 and 2 games. It is a massive white monolith, and it is one of my favorite systems, even if it is absolutely finicky and tricky to keep working. Now as far as the scaler on this TV, even though I took the wires out just for the cleanliness of this video, I used the RetroTink 4K, and I will show you what I use on my capture setup as well, because I have more than one 4K scaler, but the RetroTink 4K does everything I need when it comes to actually scaling to that modern television. And it is one of those things, you have multiple options for 4K scalers, so I figured I would use one for my TV setup and one for my capture setup, so I didn't have to move them back and forth. But I totally understand that's overkill for most people. And again, I like to hide the modern systems behind the television, because I don't think any of them actually have a very nice aesthetic when it's actually in use. Now you will see here in this room, I use the Philips Hue Play lights. I absolutely think these are outstanding and don't think this is sponsored. I paid with my own money, and it just kind of adds an extra element to when you're actually playing the game. I just love these from a visual standpoint, because I am a filmmaker, and the usage of light and its interplay with visuals is something that I've always enjoyed. This is a daytime example, but I will show you a nighttime example in one moment. But this is what the lights looked like at our previous house, and I did enjoy them, but with the door open, it kind of just had not the best aesthetic going on. But the fun part is this works for basically anything going into the HDMI signal, at least on the LG C series of OLED televisions with the built-in app that you can download from the store. But this is what it looks like in my game room now. Obviously playing Mario Kart World, a modern game, but you can basically do this on anything. And if you see me bump the walls one too many times, I was playing this through my camera's viewfinder, not actually looking at the television. Maybe this isn't for everyone, but this is something that absolutely just ups my gameplay experience. Having a full surround sound system, having an OLED television, and having these LED lights that just amplify everything going on within the game in and of itself. This is something I absolutely had to have in the new house, and I have basically Hue bulbs in every room. I don't really do many scenes with them, I just like to have them controllable via voice. That way when I just kind of feel like having a different vibe, I can have that. And it also goes to be a really nice ambient light in my studio when I'm working on stuff, because I don't like overhead lights near my monitor. It just kind of becomes a little bit distracting. Now speaking of the studio setup, I basically built this from scratch from a piece of wood that was in this house when we purchased it, as well as 3 different IKEA bookshelves. Now this place is vintage, it is over 100 years old, and that's something my wife and I really like, but you have to kind of work around that. And those shelves on the wall, which I'll get into in just a moment, were here and ended up being perfect for what I wanted to do with them. But this is basically where I sit when I'm working both on YouTube videos as well as I'm actually making client work. and it's one of those things I need to have a comfortable space because someone left a comment one time. They thought I made these videos in my parents' basement. I can't stress enough, I am a full adult who has a job, has a living, has a wife. I can drop that mic down whenever I want to make any of these voiceovers like I'm doing now. I'm sitting right here as I record this. And I love these shelves here as well because it allows me to put some of my lesser played consoles out so they can be seen, but they don't look that ridiculous when it comes to actually displaying stuff. Because I am of the aesthetic of wanting to have a quote-unquote game room, but I don't need a bunch of crazy stuff on the wall. I just like to have a little bit here and there. So we're going to go over the systems that are on that shelf as well, and do be aware some of the things just aren't actually out of the closet yet. So I have that Sharp Twin Famicom, PlayStation 1, Super Nintendo, original Switch, my Analog Pocket, my PC Engine briefcase system, a Sega Dreamcast, and a Panasonic 3DO on one side. And of course the 3DO has got to be the focal point of this shelf because it is still one of my favorite consoles of all time. I just like having this stuff around me as well, even if I don't always play it because I will go to the MiSTer FPGA side of things. Over here I have a Taito X55 datanet station, a Neo Geo CDX, GameCube, Sega Saturn, a PC Engine Duo R, N64, PCFX, and PlayStation 2 with the PixelFX Morph, being able to put all of these into my computer. And the only reason I use this over the RetroTink 4K is I have a handshake audio issue with my capture card, and the RetroTink sometimes will just not capture audio or pass it through to the capture card. I also have a Lucky Cat that my wife bought me for my 40th birthday, as well as my X Game Coach Pass there, just because I had it sitting around. You guys like to know about my life. Now if you do a 180 from the computer, you're going to see here I have my CRT set up. I have a 20-inch Sony PVM as well as a 14-inch PVM in backup underneath it. And you know full well I'm going to have a MiSTer FPGA on this as well. I'm using the Multi-System 2 here. But I have to be able to play my original Neo Geo games, and I'm probably the only person in the world that rests the Neo Geo on a 3DO M2 kiosk unit. I just love playing games on a CRT television, and I also love playing them on an OLED. So in my room, I wanted to have the best of both worlds, the ability to play on a CRT anytime I wanted, all those systems that were designed around a tube television, and then if I want to play them on a modern system, I have MiSTer FPGA to go into the OLED, and I have the RetroTink 4K scaler to be able to play that original hardware as well. So anything I can play on my CRT, I can play on my OLED, and I just kind of like to mix and match here and there. And I like to just put the case up for whatever game I'm playing just so I can kind of get a visual, because Neo Geo AS cases are so fun. It's one of those things I just like to kind of be around them. And because it is kind of a retro aesthetic room, of course I'm going to have a DVD player. So if I want to watch some old movies, I can on my CRT. And of course I'm going to make that a Nuon console. I don't usually play that many games on there, but it's kind of fun. If you're going to play DVDs, maybe play it on a rare video game console as well. And now I haven't found a place for them yet, but I have a Sony Vaio Trinitron VGA monitor for stuff like Dreamcast and even MiSTer FPGA with line doubling, and I have a retro pachinko machine that I just need to mount into the wall. But this is a vintage place, it is plaster, so that takes a lot longer to actually do. Now this is where some of the games live, not all of them. I'm still working on getting different bookshelves in here. On this stand right now, which is going to be temporary completely because it's overfilled and not really doing what I like, I have all of my different retro Japanese PC games because I love collecting a lot of those horror and weird visual novel titles. Below that, I have a metric crap ton of games in here, and the reason I don't really love this bookshelf setup currently is because they are double stacked. Nothing is alphabetized yet, nothing is even kind of isolated out whether it is North American, PAL, or Japanese. It's something I need to do in the future, but honestly, I kind of just like sifting through and not worrying about the alphabetization. And you will see that there are a bunch of games behind every face here, so a lot of these consoles just have a bunch of different titles hanging out. And over here, a holdover from the old house, which I'm thinking about maybe getting rid of, maybe keeping. Leave me a comment about what you like for bookshelf systems. There is another metric crap ton of games that I can pick out and play anytime I want. This, again, might not be the perfect setup, but for me, it kind of works. I do want to improve it. I'm just kind of trying to play around with that, because this isn't the biggest room in the world. Trust me, I would have rather had a larger room, but that would have been in Chicago, like another $100,000 to $150,000, and I kind of actually like that money, because trust me, this place was not cheap. But I'll put different generations of games here, all my box Super Nintendo N64 stuff, all my Dreamcast. Back here we have a lot of 3DO and Sega Saturn. I kind of like to face it with different titles that I've always enjoyed. And we can just basically go up and up and up this bookshelf, and there's probably in this room right now, and it is, again, not my entire collection, but 1,500 games, not including arcade stuff. And some of this stuff goes up so high you have to get a step stool, at least if you're me, because I am not the tallest person in the world for sure. Now moving over to the new Closet of Doom, which is what I call my arcade collection. Every single rare arcade board I have is definitely in this closet, along with a bunch of different controllers like that Tier Octopus, all of my VR stuff, a bunch of different arcade games, and different MiSTer parts and accessories. I'm just shooting this on my iPhone because getting my Blackmagic Pixels in this closet was definitely small. So this is definitely still something I'm working on organizing because I have a MiSTer FPGA next to MiSTer FPGA parts, next to a Naomi cart, next to an unused Philips Hue bulb. I'm not the best at organization, but I am working on this. And if we go down one more shelf, we have a lot of the different custom harnesses I've made, a lot of different ROM boards for upgrades for rare arcade games, filter boards for different connections when I actually want to play these. Really, it's a collection of accessories for rare arcade boards. That way, whenever I need to plug something in, it is at hand. And it's one of those things, everything's pretty much labeled, so it isn't the worst thing in the world. Over here at Taito Type X2, a bunch of other arcade boards in metal cases, a bunch of my 3DO M2 boards, and a lot of other rare things. It can sometimes be a little bit hard to get things out of here. I'm still working on it, but this is kind of the flow right now. If we take a look at the next couple of shelves, a bunch of handhelds as well as even more MiSTer parts and different things such as that. If we go down one more, all of my light guns, both for home consoles as well as for arcade boards. That way I can pick up whatever light gun I need and start playing a light gun game on that CRT television. And that is definitely something I prioritize when I do my setup. I want to be able to play all my original light gun games, whether they're home console or whether they're arcade, on my 20-inch PVM. So I will show you in a future video the entire arcade setup because I am still working on that ever so slightly. But light gun games are definitely something I have to have when it comes to my collection. Leave me a comment down below and you tell me in your retro gaming setup, is light gun stuff important or is it something that you skip over? And in future videos I'm also working on a wall mountable IR solution for those arcade boards that actually use movement. That way you can kind of move around, think Police 911 and stuff like that. Because I do have the boards and I really do want to be able to use them in my room, being able to kind of duck around and actually move your body in the game like you would on the arcade board. But as far as light gun stuff is concerned, there will be a part 2 to this talking about arcade gaming at home and how I do it. If you're wondering what was in all of these drawers, it basically is a mishmash, and this one here, basically every controller I could possibly need is in a bag, and sometimes it's labeled if it is rare, but for the most part I can just look at a controller and know exactly what it is I'm trying to see. Moving up from there, I've got a lot of the custom cables and the JAMA harnesses, so when I do want to plug something into capture, it is sitting right here for me. The entire goal of this room was production. If I need anything, if I need a power cable, a controller, a specialized video cable, or anything else, including a power supply for a console, it is all going to be located in here. And of course, like any good setup, there is a junk drawer, some controllers for the scalers, as well as my passport. This is just a miscellaneous power and different accessory drawer for the multi-system too, a little bit of soldering stuff and some other specialized computer cables. And then from there we kind of go into the power supply section, and there is another set of drawers with all of the custom cables for video I have made to make sure everything can be captured and sent in to make YouTube videos for. But this is kind of what I did with the room. This is just a preliminary tour to give you guys an idea and to even get some actual answers as to what you think I should do for the bookshelf system. But in this one room, I've got an LG 65-inch C4 OLED, I've got a 20-inch as well as a 14-inch Sony PVM, a VGA monitor, multiple MiSTers, most of my game collection, a ton of arcade boards, and more organization to do. But it's one of those things, when I close the door on this room, you'd have no idea that there was any video games in this house, and we actually don't have a television in the living room because we wanted to keep it kind of neater. But that's the tour, at least this point in time. I'm sure I'll do it again. If you have any questions, leave them down below, but I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.